In 1510, Peter Heinen created the first watch ever in Nuremberg, Germany. Since then, an unimaginable amount of designs and great watches have come out, but these are 10 of the most iconic. Before we start, however, I will say 5 honourable mentions that just barely didn't make the cut. These go to the Omega Seamaster, the Panerai Luminor, the Zenith El Primero, the Casio F91W, and the Rolex Datejust. Now to get straight into the top 10, the number 1 most iconic watch, in my opinion, is the Rolex Submariner. The Rolex Submariner is undeniably the most iconic watch ever made if you ask me, because it's the most copied, the most replicated watch in the world, and even if you aren't that into watches, chances are you've seen the icon somewhere. While it's been continuously perfected and improved since its introduction in 1953, it remains the unmistakable watch first made famous by James Bond. The diving icon is still considered a status symbol to this day and is celebrating its 70th anniversary this year in 2023. For the number 2 spot, I have the Omega Speedmaster Professional. The Omega Speedmaster Professional is unquestionably one of the most iconic watches of all time. Several moon landings, a rescue mission in space, and part of NASA's official kit, the so-called Moonwatch is an absolute legend in the watch industry. The model's timeless design has remained virtually unchanged since the pioneering days of space travel, and when worn on the wrist you can feel a tangible link to the model's many famed adventures. No other timepiece has claimed such a long and exciting history as the Omega Speedmaster Professional, and in my opinion, that makes it the second most iconic. For the third watch on the list, we have the Cartier Santos. The history of the Cartier Santos dates back to 1904. As the story goes, pioneering aviator Alberto Santos Dumont found it difficult to read his pocket watch while flying. He turned to a friend and watchmaker, Louise Françoise Cartier, to develop a wristwatch suitable for life in the cockpit. Dumont reportedly wore the resulting wristwatch during all his subsequent flights, and thus the Cartier Santos became the world's first pilot's watch. The model's iconic design has hardly changed since its official introduction in 1911, and there's even a specific model named after Dumont called the Cartier Santos Dumont. For number 4 on this list, we have the Tag Heuer Monaco. The Tag Heuer Monaco, with its angular lines and 1970s flair, is without a doubt an icon in the industry. The chronograph has made racing history on the wrists of famous drivers like Joe Seifert and Josant Rind, I think I'm saying that right, but I'm not sure, and is also known to be worn by a popular fictional character, Walter White from Breaking Bad. It reached an absolute cult status when it starred on the wrist of Steve McQueen in the classic film Le Mans. The number 5 watch on this list goes to the Rolex Daytona. The Rolex Daytona definitely deserves a spot on any list of famous watches, and today this sports icon is one of the most coveted Rolex models. Anyone who wants to buy a Rolex wants a Rolex Daytona. It's the grail piece of the Rolex lineup. Unsurprisingly, this has led to market prices far outpacing the watch's official list price. However, strangely enough, this wasn't always the case, because when it was first introduced in 1963, the now legendary chronograph was considered a slow burner. The Rolex Daytona is now the ultimate status symbol as the biggest and baddest Rolex of all, which is also by far the most famous and biggest watch brand, so the Rolex Daytona is pretty much the grail piece for showing off. The watch taking 6th place on this list is the Patek Philippe Nautilus. The Patek Philippe Nautilus has truly shaped the modern watch industry. When it was first released in 1976, this elegant watch designed by Gerald Genta was one of the first luxury watches to be made of stainless steel. In the decades since, Patek Philippe has truly perfected the popular concept of a stainless steel luxury watch, as well as the idea of an integrated bracelet. The Tiffany Nautilus is also known to be the big daddy of watches, fetching millions on the market and only being accessible to huge superstars like Jay-Z, LeBron James and Leonardo DiCaprio. Taking the 7th spot on this list, however, is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. At the start of the 1970s, luxury watches were delicate pieces of jewellery made exclusively of precious metals. Steel sport watches were purely functional tools, and the quartz crisis was in full swing. Audemars Piguet, however, achieved the seemingly impossible in the midst of all this. They commissioned designer Gerald Genter to create a stainless steel luxury watch essentially overnight. He delivered a masterpiece, making himself a legend in the watch industry, of course creating the Patek Philippe Nautilus years after this, and in 1972 the release of the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak marked the debut of the first luxury watch made of stainless steel. The model's design remains one of the most iconic to this day and is known to be the greatest blank canvas in the watch industry. Taking the 8th spot on this list is the Breitling Navitimer. The Breitling Navitimer is yet another aviation classic. This watch doesn't really need introducing because back when watches were truly functional companions, the Navitimer chronograph was doing far more than just telling the time. Thanks to its rotating slide rule bezel, pilots could perform a number of complicated calculations related to flying. Today, Breitling offers this aviation icon in a range of sizes and dial colours, but the essential design remains as true to the original as ever. Taking the number 9th spot on this list is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso. The Art Deco inspired Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso is without a doubt the brand's most famous model, and you may disagree, but in my opinion is the only model anyone knows from Jaeger-LeCoultre. But originally designed for polo players, the watch's unique reversible case is a unique selling point that you won't find anywhere else. Nowadays though, the caseback doesn't serve as a protective cover, but can often include a whole second dial, propelling the Reverso to a legendary status. However, a year before this, Cartier did actually design a watch that had the exact same thing, where it flips up. It was a Cartier Tank that you can lift up, flip and put back down for polo, but it was released a year after the Jaeger-LeCoultre Reverso, even though it was designed a year before, so there you go. Talking about Cartier, the watch taking 10th place on this list is the Cartier Tank. The Cartier Tank was created by Louise Cartier in 1917, taking inspiration from the new Renault tanks which Cartier saw in use on the Western Front. Originally introduced in 1918, the watch entered full production in 1919 with a total of 6 pieces built. It had lines and proportions similar to its inspiration, and the rectangular timepiece had its strap seamlessly integrated into vertical sidebars called brancards. Since its launch, Cartier presented various iterations of the Tank, including the Tank Louise in 1922, the Tank Américaine in 1989, as well as the Tank Française in 1996. With the watch's bold Roman numeral indexes on the dial, it became an iconic watch for the brand, second only to the Cartier Santos. With good reason, because the blue sword-shaped seal hands, sapphire, cabochon surmounted crown, and various famous wearers including Princess Diana and Yves Saint Laurent, along with the iconic and, might I say, very nice design, it's pretty easy to see why the Cartier Tank has become so iconic. Anyways, that's all I have time for today, so I'm going to have to pop off, but thank you very much for watching till the end. If you wouldn't mind hitting the subscription button, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to hit that 1,000 subs, but it's going to take a while. I'm aiming to hit 1,000 subs by the end of 2023, but yeah, hope you enjoyed and hope to catch you in the next one.